Hello everybody, it's Jabbar here. Today's video is a patron request. If you'd like to make a video request of your own, you can do so by becoming a patron. The link to this can be found below. When a discussion of religion comes to the table, here in the West, we tend to default to two distinct categories. Abrahamic to include Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, or Eastern religions such as Buddhism or Hinduism, or in some cases, Japanese Shintoism. The only religion with African origins that is fairly well known in the West is Voodoo. However, it's often portrayed as an evil or demonic religion, and given its colonial history, it too is heavily influenced by Christianity, with its origins actually resting in the Vodun religion of the Fon people of West Africa. So prior to colonialism, what religion did Africans follow? Is there some collective tribal religion practiced in Africa? Or was it simply this demonic idol worshipping, or juju, that is commonly depicted in movies? Are any of these religions still practiced today? And what gods do they worship? First, we'll cover the obvious ones, since they have historically and presently have the largest percentage of practitioners on the continent. Ever since the birth of Islam, it has slowly trickled its way throughout the African continent. North Africa was Islamized quickly and largely by force, while Sub-Saharan Africans for the most part were peaceful converts, almost certainly through trade relations with Arabs and North Africans. Historically, trading with fellow Muslims has always been a good practice, as it allowed Islamic African empires to hold a monopoly on all the trans-Saharan trade caravans. Converting to Islam was also an incentive to not be taken into slavery, as it was forbidden to enslave a fellow Muslim or go to war with a fellow Muslim country. Christianity and Judaism were also present on the African continent since the very early histories of these religions. In fact, King Azana the Great of the Aksumite kingdom that existed in what is now modern-day Ethiopia made Christianity into a state religion sometime in the 4th century CE. The same time frame that Armenia became Christian, with both nation-states claiming the title of the oldest Christian states to date, and neither one being able to conclusively be proven to be older than the other. Despite the heavy influence of Abrahamic religions in Africa, they remained restricted entirely to the northern, eastern, and western regions of the continent. Even within these regions, traditional religions still held sway by many groups and populations, such as the Mosi and the Dogon kingdoms. Or in many cases, they were even blended with Abrahamic religions. In West Africa, for example, historically the forested regions is where the influence of Islam was noticeably more negligible, with the kingdoms and empires of the region being entirely traditional in most cases. There are hundreds and perhaps thousands of indigenous religions on the African continent, but many of them share striking similarities with their neighbors, indicative of common origins in a similar fashion to how Abrahamic religions are similar to one another. For that reason, we'll cover just a few of these distinct religions by region. Most West African religions consisted of one supreme creator god and several lesser gods or goddesses. The Yoruba people of the West African Forest Zone, for example, worshipped a pantheon of gods known as Orishas. This pantheon rivaled the complexity of the Greek and Roman pantheons, containing hundreds of gods with complex relationships between one another, the universe, and mankind. In fact, they are believed to have powers to possess human bodies and serve as messengers between the heavens and the earth. Shango, for example, the Yoruba god of thunder, fire, and masculinity. A god that is actually very similar to the Norse god, Thor. In fact, Thor carries a tool that gives him his power over thunder, a concept that parallels Shango. However, instead of carrying a hammer, Shango carries a double-bladed axe. A strong theme of this religion is the spiritual energy known as Asi, a powerful force that literally translates to the word change in the Yoruba language. Ashi exists in every known object, whether it's alive, dead, or even inanimate. This concept rivals chi or mana in East Asian and Polynesian cultures respectively, and the fact that it's quite literally the force responsible for any and everything that changes in our universe. Those who have acquired the ability to control and manipulate Ashi are known as Alashi. Analogous gods, ideologies, and concepts can also be found among neighboring ethnic groups, including the Fon and Igbo peoples, who practice the Vodun and Ordinani religions respectively. A trickster god who acts as a gatekeeper to the underworld, for example, is known as Ishu in the Yoruba religion. This same trickster god can be found in the Akan religion practiced by the peoples of present-day Ghana and Ivory Coast. However, his name is Anansi, which literally translates to the word spider in the tree language. And actually, this is a very common character in the themes of stories read to children in the Caribbean. In short, most West African forest kingdoms share a few key similarities. A supreme creator god, usually from the sky or sea, followed by a pantheon of lesser gods and goddesses that have complex relationships with one another, the world, and mankind. At present, after centuries of European contact and colonialism, the majority of Yoruba people are Christians, but their indigenous religion is still practiced by a sizable population, and has even spread among the African diaspora, firmly establishing itself in communities within Latin America and the Caribbean. Moving on to Central Africa, we will talk about the Kingdom of Congo. Similar to the West African religions, the people of Congo believed in one supreme creator god and several lesser gods. When the Portuguese first made contact with the Kingdom of Congo in the 15th century, they were greeted by friendly peoples who quickly adopted Christianity, establishing firm ties with Europe. This was not through coercion or a lack of respect for their own religion, but because Christianity already shared similar qualities with the Congo cosmology. Surprisingly enough, the symbol of the Christian religion was already in wide use in the Congo Kingdom for religious purposes prior to the exposure of Catholicism. That's right, the cross was used in Congo for religious purposes indigenously. However, its purpose had no relation to Jesus Christ or anything biblical for that matter, as this part of the world had never been exposed to Christian peoples or their beliefs before. Its purpose was to explain the balance between the physical world and the spiritual world, with the horizontal line symbolizing the boundary between the two, while the vertical line represented the connection to and from the two worlds. The traditional religion of Congo tends to place a great emphasis on the balance of everything that mankind experiences, whether it be male or female, physical or spiritual, good or evil. There were several such symbols like these used among the Congolese peoples for similar purposes. Even their supreme creator god, Nzambi a Mpungu, is described as being both a male and a female entity at the same time. The last religion we'll discuss will be the Khoi and the San peoples of southern Africa. Like most of the religions formerly mentioned, the Khoi and the San believe in one supreme creator god, whom they call Tsui Goab. However, unlike their Western and Central African counterparts, their religion seems to lack a large pantheon having no lesser gods or goddesses. They do, however, have a devil-like figure responsible for all evil, sickness, and unfortunate events that happen in the world, whom they call Kang. One similarity that he does share with his West African counterparts is the fact that he's regarded as a trickster, deliberately playing mind games with men and manipulating them to cause misfortune, and is described as both a creator and a destroyer. Among the Khoikhoi people, this trickster figure is regarded as an entirely separate entity, whom they call Petsi Abib. Another thing that is particularly interesting about the religion of the Khoisan is that some groups believe that after they die, their spirits manifest in the stars, a concept that seems very familiar to those of us who grew up in the 90s.
Father?
It would be impossible for me to cover every religion in Africa, let alone the complexity of each one. In fact, in order to do these religions any justice, they require their own individual videos. Africa is a huge continent with over 1 billion people and thousands of ethnic groups. It is the birthplace of mankind, as well as many of its religious concepts and ideologies. To this day, millions of people throughout Africa and its diaspora still carry on these religions, as well as their traditions, ideologies, and philosophical values, in spite of the dramatic impact of Abrahamic religions on their people and their ways of life. Unfortunately, even among Africans themselves, these religions are brushed aside as primitive or evil, and their practitioners are often looked upon as credulous by those of the Christian and Islamic communities. In some cases, people of Africa and the diaspora will even completely disown their ancestral cultures and traditions in favor of fabricated stories of Hebrew refugees or anything else that gives them some sort of biblical connection or legitimacy. These views undoubtedly have their roots in the mindsets of the colonial era, as well as the relative poverty of modern traditional practitioners. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you did. Also, don't forget that if you would like to make a video request of your own, you can do so by following the link below and supporting the Empire from nothing. I hope to hear from you guys soon, and always remember, we don't come from nothing.